The call came on a Friday evening while I was wrapping up paperwork at my desk in Seattle. My phone lit up with a number I did not recognize, and when I answered, a polished voice introduced himself as Attorney Peterson, representing my ex-wife, Sarah. The request hit me like a freight train. Sarah wanted to triple my child support payments from $1,200 a month to $3,600. The reason? So our 8-year-old daughter, Emma, would never have to worry about money and could have the best life possible. I sat there staring at the city lights outside my window, feeling my chest tighten. Sarah had never been this fixated on money during our marriage. What had changed? Before I tell you what I discovered about where that money was really going, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you want to hear how this story ends, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what I found out was not just about money. It was about something far more twisted, and the way I handled it, well, let me just say they never saw it coming. Now, let me take you back to where this all began. Sarah and I had been married for 7 years before calling it quits 2 years ago. The split was not dramatic or explosive. She simply told me one evening that she felt trapped, that she needed freedom, that the love had faded. We divided our belongings, agreed on custody arrangements, and moved on. I kept a small apartment in downtown Seattle, close enough to pick up Emma every Wednesday evening and every weekend. My job as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company paid decently around $90,000 a year, enough to cover my expenses, and the $1,200 in monthly child support I had been paying without ever missing a deadline. I threw myself into work and fatherhood. Emma became my anchor. Every Wednesday I would pick her up from school, and we would grab pizza or burgers before I helped her with homework. Weekends were ours. We would explore parks, visit museums, or simply lounge on my couch watching her favorite cartoons. I had not dated seriously since the divorce. The idea of letting someone new into my life felt overwhelming when I was still figuring out how to be a single dad. So when Attorney Peterson called with Sarah's demand, my first instinct was to assume she genuinely needed the money for Emma. Maybe our daughter needed something I had not noticed. Maybe there were expenses I was unaware of. I agreed to meet Sarah in person at a coffee shop the following Tuesday, neutral ground, where we could talk without tension. Sarah walked in, looking composed and confident, her hair styled perfectly, wearing a blazer that screamed professional success. She was different from the woman I had known during our marriage, someone who used to worry constantly about bills and schedules. This version of Sarah was calm, almost rehearsed. She slid a printed document across the table, a detailed breakdown of costs: private school tuition, music lessons, sports equipment, summer camps, tutoring. The list went on and on. "I do not want Emma growing up worrying about money the way I did," she said, her voice steady. "She deserves stability and opportunities." I scanned the numbers. Everything seemed plausible on the surface, but something gnawed at me. "Why exactly triple?" I asked. "Why not 2,000 or 2,500? Sarah dodged the question, folding her hands neatly on the table. "My lawyer calculated this based on your income and Emma's needs. It is what is fair." Fair. The word echoed in my mind as I drove home that evening. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think this was all about Emma. But doubt crept in, stubborn and insistent. That night, I started researching child support laws in Washington state. According to the guidelines, an increase to around $2,000 would be reasonable given my income. But $3,600. That was excessive. I called my lawyer, David, a straightforward guy who had helped me through the divorce. He reviewed the documents Sarah had provided and raised an eyebrow. "This is unusual," he said. "The amount they are asking for is beyond what is typically awarded. Did Sarah's financial situation change? Is she unemployed?" I realized I had no idea. I did not know what Sarah did for work anymore, how much she earned, or what her life looked like beyond the brief interactions during custody exchanges. The following Wednesday, when I picked up Emma, I watched her carefully. She seemed happy chattering about her day at school, her friends, her upcoming art project. But when I casually asked about school, she mentioned something that stopped me cold. "Mommy says I might go to a new school next year," Emma said, swinging her legs as she sat at my kitchen counter, eating mac and cheese. "Do you want to go to a new school?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. She shrugged. "I do not know. Mommy and Uncle Brad think it is good for me." Uncle Brad. The name hit me like a punch. "Who is Uncle Brad?" I asked, forcing a smile. "Mommy's friend," Emma said easily. "He stays over a lot. He is nice. He bought me ice cream last week." My heart sank. Sarah had a boyfriend. That was fine. We were divorced and she had every right to move on. But the fact that she had not told me that this man was spending time with my daughter without my knowledge made my stomach turn. And now, suddenly, there was a connection I could not ignore. Brad. The demand for more money. It all felt too convenient. That evening, after Emma went to bed, I did what I probably should not have done. I searched for Sarah on social media. I had unfriended her after the divorce, but her profile was public. What I found made my chest tighten. Photos of Sarah and a man, clearly Brad, at upscale restaurants on vacation, looking blissfully happy. I clicked on Brad's profile. He worked in real estate and his feed was filled with luxury lifestyle shots, a BMW in a driveway, designer watches, expensive dinners. If Brad was wealthy, why did Sarah need more money from me? The question kept me awake that night, staring at the ceiling, piecing together a puzzle I did not want to solve. Over the next week, I became someone I did not recognize. I was not a snoop by nature, but desperation drove me to dig deeper. I checked Sarah's Venmo account, which was partially public, and saw transaction after transaction for high-end purchases. Dinners at places I could never afford. Shopping sprees. A payment labeled bridal consultation. Bridal consultation. My stomach dropped. I clicked through Sarah's social media again, this time more carefully. A friend had commented on one of her photos, "Cannot wait for the big day." Another post, slightly older, showed Sarah holding champagne, with Brad captioned, "Cheers to new beginnings." Someone had replied, "You two deserve this dream wedding. Sarah and Brad were getting married." I felt sick. I kept scrolling, and eventually found their wedding registry online, listed under Sarah and Brad's names. It was filled with luxury items, designer cookware, expensive linens, a honeymoon fund. The destination, a 2-week trip to the Maldives, estimated to cost around $15,000. I did the math in my head. Sarah was asking for an extra $2,400 a month. Over a year, that was $28,800. Enough to cover a wedding, a honeymoon, and maybe a down payment on a bigger house, which I had seen hints of in her posts. They were using Emma as an excuse to fund their new life. The realization made my hands shake. I called David immediately, laying out everything I had found. He listened carefully, then sighed. "This is fraud, Lucian," he said. "Child support is specifically for the child's needs, not parental expenses. But we need concrete proof. Screenshots and social media posts help, but we need more." "How do I get more proof?" I asked. "Document everything," David said. "If they do get the increased payment, track where it actually goes. But that could take months, and I know you do not want to wait." He was right. I could not wait months. Emma did not deserve to be caught in the middle of this manipulation. Against David's advice, I decided to confront Sarah directly. I called her and demanded a private meeting. We agreed to meet at a park on Thursday evening, away from Emma. When I arrived, Sarah was already there, leaning against a bench with her arms crossed. I did not waste time with pleasantries. "I know you are getting married," I said. "Congratulations. But that is not Emma's expense." Her face hardened. "Excuse me." The money you are asking for. I continued, my voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through me. It is not for Emma's school or activities, is it? It is for your wedding, your honeymoon, your new house. Sarah's eyes flashed with anger. How dare you stalk me? You have no right to investigate my life. I have every right when you are using our daughter to bankroll your lifestyle, I shot back. Brad and I are building a family, she snapped. And yes, Emma is part of that family. She deserves a nice home, a stable environment. That costs money. I already provide for Emma, I said. This extra amount is not for her. It is for you. You are just jealous, Sarah hissed. You cannot stand that I have moved on and found happiness. The argument spiraled. Sarah threatened to take me to court to fight for full custody, to tell the judge I was unstable and obsessed with her. She said Brad's lawyer was better than mine, that they would win. Her words cut deep, not because I believed them, but because I realized this woman, the mother of my child, was willing to destroy me to get what she wanted. She stormed off, leaving me standing alone in the park as the sun set. I felt defeated, powerless, and terrified. What if she won? What if I lost Emma? What if I was forced to pay for a life I had no part in? That night, I sat in my apartment staring at a photo of Emma on my desk. Her bright smile, her innocence. She had no idea what was happening, and I wanted to keep it that way. But I also knew I could not let Sarah and Brad win. Not for my sake, but for Emma's. The next morning, I called David. I need your help, I said. I am not backing down. Let us fight this properly. David and I met in his office the following Monday. He spread documents across the table and laid out our strategy. We needed to prove that Emma's needs were already being met, that Sarah's request was excessive, and that the increased support had nothing to do with our daughter. Over the next few weeks, I became meticulous. I gathered every receipt, every bank statement, every record of money I had spent on Emma. School supplies, clothes, toys, books, doctor visits, dental checkups. I documented everything. I also pulled Emma's school records, which showed excellent grades and glowing reports from her teachers. She was thriving. There was no educational crisis that required a private school. David hired a private investigator to track Sarah's spending. The PI was discreet but thorough. Within 2 weeks, he had a file full of evidence. Sarah's income as a marketing manager was $70,000 a year. Brad's real estate earnings were estimated at $120,000 annually. Together, their household income was nearly $200,000, significantly more than mine. The PI also uncovered the wedding venue contract. The venue cost $25,000, and Sarah had already paid a $10,000 deposit from her personal account. The wedding was scheduled for 4 months away. We had everything we needed. The court date arrived on a gray Tuesday morning. I walked into the family courtroom with David by my side, my stomach churning. Sarah sat at the opposite table with Brad and their lawyer, Mr. Peterson, who looked every bit as polished as his reputation suggested. Judge Martinez, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, called the hearing to order. Peterson went first, presenting Sarah's case with theatrical flair. He listed every expense. Sarah claimed Emma needed private school tuition at $2,000 a month, extracurricular activities at $600, a future college fund contribution of $400, and miscellaneous costs totaling $600. He painted me as selfish, unwilling to provide for my daughter, despite having the means. Then Sarah took the stand. She cried as she spoke, her voice trembling. I just want the best for our daughter, she said. Lucian does not understand how expensive things are now. Emma deserves stability, and that requires financial security. I watched the judge's face. She seemed sympathetic. My heart sank. Were we losing? During the recess, David squeezed my shoulder. Trust me, he said. We have got this. When the hearing resumed, David stood and began our defense. He presented Emma's current school records, including a letter from her principal, stating that she was excelling and saw no educational need for a transfer. He showed my financial records proving that I was already spending over $2,000 a month on Emma, more than the court-ordered amount. Then came the turning point. David presented Sarah's income disclosure, showing her and Brad's combined earnings. He submitted printouts of Sarah's social media posts, the wedding registry, the venue contract, and the honeymoon plans. He laid out the timeline, showing that Sarah's increased support request coincided exactly with her wedding planning. "Your Honor, David," said his voice firm. "This is not about Emma's needs. Emma's needs are being more than adequately met. This is about funding Miss Sarah's wedding and new lifestyle. Child support is for the child, not for parental luxuries. Miss Sarah and Mr. Brad have a combined income higher than Mr. Lucian's. They do not need his money. They want it." Peterson objected, scrambling to counter, but the evidence was overwhelming. Sarah's face went pale. Brad shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Judge Martinez took her time reviewing the documents. The courtroom was silent, except for the rustling of paper. Finally, she looked up. "I have reviewed all submitted materials," she said. "It is clear that Emma's needs are being appropriately met with the current support arrangement. The requested increase is excessive and not justified by the child's actual needs. Furthermore, the evidence suggests ulterior motives for this request. The motion to increase child support is denied. The current support amount of $1,200 per month will remain in effect. Additionally, Miss Sarah is ordered to pay Mr. Lucian's legal fees in this matter, totaling $4,500. The gavel came down. I exhaled relief, flooding through me. Sarah sat frozen, her face a mixture of shock and anger. Brad looked like he wanted to disappear. Outside the courthouse, Sarah tried to confront me. "You have ruined everything," she shouted. "Brad and I held up a hand, cutting her off. "I did not ruin anything, Sarah. You did this to yourself. Emma deserves honesty, not manipulation." I walked away, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The weeks following the court ruling were strange. Sarah and Brad's wedding went ahead, but it was scaled down considerably. I heard through mutual acquaintances that they skipped the Maldives and honeymooned on the Oregon coast instead. I did not gloat. I did not share the story with anyone. It was private, and I wanted to keep it that way. Sarah's demeanor changed. She became distant during custody exchanges, barely making eye contact. Brad stopped showing up at all. Emma, bless her heart, remained blissfully unaware of the adult drama swirling around her. But she was perceptive. One evening, as I tucked her into bed, she looked up at me with wide eyes. "Daddy, are you and Mommy fighting?" she asked. I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. "Sweetheart, adults sometimes disagree about grown-up things. But we both love you very much. That never changes." She smiled, reassured. "Okay. I love you too, Daddy." Protecting Emma from the toxicity became my top priority. I realized that winning in court was not the victory I needed to focus on. The real victory was ensuring Emma grew up feeling loved and secure, not like a pawn in someone else's game. I started therapy. My therapist helped me work through the anger and hurt I had been carrying since the divorce. "You cannot control other people's choices," she told me. "You can only control your response." That simple truth became my mantra. I made changes in my life. I cut back on overtime at work and spent more time with Emma. I picked up old hobbies I had abandoned, like hiking and photography. I joined a single-parent support group and met others who had been through similar struggles. It was comforting to know I was not alone. One Saturday at Emma's soccer game, I met Grace, another single parent whose son played on the same team. We struck up a conversation that felt easy and genuine. It was not romantic, not yet, but it was a reminder that connection and understanding still existed in the world. Grace's advice stuck with me. The best revenge is living well and being present for your kid. Financially, I redirected the money I would have been forced to pay into a trust fund for Emma. Real financial security, not manipulated money. I wanted her to have opportunities when she grew older, opportunities built on honesty and hard work. Emma thrived. She stayed at her current school surrounded by friends she loved. She was happy, healthy, and well-adjusted. Our bond grew stronger. She started to recognize the differences in how Sarah and I parented, and while she never said it outright, I could tell she appreciated the consistency I provided. Almost a year after the court case, Sarah reached out. She asked to meet at the same coffee shop where this whole mess had started. I was hesitant, but I agreed. She looked different, tired, humbled. She sat across from me and folded her hands on the table, just like she had done a year earlier. But this time, there was no confidence, no rehearsed speech. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "I let Brad and the idea of this perfect new life cloud my judgment. I used Emma and I used you. I am sorry." I listened, without interrupting. "Brad and I are struggling," she continued. "The real estate market took a downturn and he is not doing well financially. We are barely getting by. I realize now what I had a co-parent who actually cared, and I almost destroyed it." I took a deep breath. I was not angry anymore, just honest. "I appreciate the apology, Sarah. I hope you find your way. For Emma's sake, let us try to co-parent better. No games, no manipulation, just honesty." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Agreed." It was not a happy ending, but it was a civil resolution. We shook hands and went our separate ways. I left the coffee shop feeling lighter, not because she had apologized, but because I had chosen peace over resentment. Looking back, I learned something profound. Doing the right thing is not always easy. It would have been simpler to just pay the money and avoid conflict. But standing up for what was right for Emma's sake was worth every difficult moment. Some people will use the things you love most as leverage: your kids, your love, your guilt. Recognizing manipulation does not make you cynical. It makes you wise. You cannot heal from betrayal by holding grudges. You heal by choosing peace boundaries and moving forward. Sarah's choices were hers. My choice was how I responded, and I chose to protect my daughter and myself with truth, not bitterness. Being a good parent is not about money. It is about presence, honesty, and unconditional love. Emma does not need $3,600 a month. She needs a dad who shows up, who fights for her, who loves her without conditions. Last weekend, Emma and I went to the park to fly a kite. She ran across the grass laughing as the kite soared higher and higher. I stood there watching her, feeling a peace I had not felt in years. Sometimes the battles we fight are not for victory. They are for truth. And the truth is, you cannot buy love, security, or a real relationship with your child. Those things are earned through every small moment you choose to be present. Sarah wanted money to build a life. I chose to build a life with what money cannot buy: real connection. And that is worth more than any amount they could have demanded. So let me ask you this. Have you ever felt used or manipulated by someone you trusted? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories. And if this resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Your support means the world to me. Thank you for listening, and I hope you find the courage to stand up for what is right in your own life. Take care, and remember, the truth always wins in the end.